Hey honeybees, my name is Raven, this is Eden, that's Jasper, and welcome back to our channel.
Subscribe to become part of the hive. Be sure to like and ring the notification bell. Thanks, honeybees. Enjoy the video.
Okay. You just gonna be there? Are you just gonna stay on the desk? Do you wanna go? Do you wanna go over there? Do you need help? Come here. Alright, help you down? Alright, up. Hi friends, welcome back. Happy holidays. Today I wanted to talk about two movies that are not holiday movies whatsoever. I mean, one of them maybe if you count the fact that it's like a religious movie-esque and it's in wintertime, but whatever. I'm going to talk about two movies I saw recently that I really liked. And there's not really a lot of new Christmas movies out lately, at least so far that I've seen. I saw Red One. I didn't like it. I did a review on my TikTok because that's all I really felt like doing for that. And there's a few that came out on streaming. One, I saw Nutcrackers starring Ben Stiller. Bad, didn't like it. Don't really have anything else to say besides that. Boring, not Christmassy. And then there's Dear Santa starring Jack Black on, I believe, Paramount Plus. I haven't watched it yet. So I don't know. Maybe that'll be so good that I'll review it as part of my Christmas special. I don't know, probably not, but I do have more holiday content coming if anyone's worried about that. But for now, let's get into these two movies. So the movies I want to talk about today are Juror number 2 and also Heretic. Both of these movies, like I said, I really liked both of them, and they both made me feel really uneasy. So let's jump right in with starting with Juror number 2.
It was last October. It was raining, and I hit something.
Juror number 2 is a legal thriller directed by Clint Eastwood, written by Jonathan Abrams, and stars Nicolette Hoult, Toni Collette, J.K. Simmons, Zoe Deutsch, and a few others. Juror number 2 was a really interesting concept, I thought. Like I said, it stars Nicholas Hoult as Justin Kemp, who is a journalist and recovering alcoholic who gets called to jury duty. And he finds out pretty quickly that this is a case that he is actually very, very close to. So throughout the movie, we're kind of seeing his eternal struggle, kind of this moral quandary that he's going through of if he should speak up and let everybody know that he thinks he was involved, or if he should just stay quiet to protect himself and his growing family. He has a wife who is pregnant. He's a recovering alcoholic. He's gotten in trouble legally in the past, and he's trying to leave that past behind him. So the main struggle in the movie is just Justin trying to figure out the best way to handle this morally, in a way that will not ruin his family, because that's kind of his only choice: either ruin everything he's built or do what is possibly the right thing legally. Because if he does not step up and admit his wrong and admit what he thinks he might have done wrong, an innocent man might go to prison for the rest of his life. There's going to be some spoiler talk for this one, so if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. It was a limited release in theaters. Since I live in Los Angeles, I got to see it because all limited release go to Los Angeles and New York first. I'm not sure if it's going to be screening anywhere else, but I do know that it is coming to streaming services pretty soon. I believe HBO Max. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend seeing it first before I get into spoilers. Highly recommend it as a film. I do think that you should watch it when it comes out. But let's continue. So, Justin Kemp, Nicholas Hoult. Like I said, he is called into jury duty, and it seems very unassuming. I thought that we were going to get a little bit more of a build-up to what the issue was, which the issue being, like I mentioned, he is involved in the case and doesn't know it until he just so happens to be called to jury duty for this case. But we find out pretty quickly that he thinks that he might be at fault here. So what the case is, it's a domestic violence case where a man is being accused of murdering his girlfriend. And this incident happened about a year ago. The incident was that this couple was seen at a bar that they frequent. They were fighting. The woman stormed off. The man drove away, and the woman was found dead the next day in a riverbank by a bridge not far from the bar. So what the man is being accused of is going after her after she left, bashing her head in or something like that, and leaving her to die in that riverbank because he was so upset. His argument is that he left and has no idea what happened to her. He feels really bad that he let her leave, but he had nothing to do with her death. Another interesting dynamic here is Toni Collette plays Faith Killebrew, who is assistant district attorney, and she is prosecuting the case. So she is the one trying to prove the man guilty. This is very important for her because she is running for district attorney. So she feels like if she is able to win this case, that is going to sway voters in her favor if she puts a man accused of domestic violence and murdering his girlfriend behind bars and proving that he did it. So a lot is on the line here for multiple people. Now, how Nicholas Hoult is involved in all this is that as soon as he starts to kind of hear what the case is about, he does try to get out of jury duty at first because, like I said, his wife is pregnant. This is their first child. They had previously lost a child. I believe they had lost twins previously, which happened about a year prior to this. So the timeline all kind of runs together with these characters, but he doesn't get out of jury duty. He finds out pretty quickly as they lay out the pieces of this case that this is the bar that it happened at was a bar that he used to frequent when he was an alcoholic. And he recognized the man being prosecuted and realizes that he was there that night. Nicholas Hoult was there the night that this couple fought and the woman ended up being found dead the next day. He witnessed the argument and saw them leave, and he drove off not long after they both left. And he starts putting some things together because he remembers that night, about a year ago, it was raining really heavily. It was dark outside. He was at the bar, but he wasn't drinking. He ordered a drink, but did not drink it because that night was the night that his and his wife's twins were supposed to be due, but she had miscarried. So he was having a really tough time with that and went to a bar, but then decided not to drink. So he did not relapse. And in the year since, obviously things got better, but all of this is flooding back to him when he is hearing about the case. And you might think, well, that's not a really big deal if he was just there as a witness. He probably shouldn't be a jury member maybe, but he could be a witness. He could say that, like, you know, he saw it, he was there. Like, why not just pipe up? Well, it's because when he was driving home from the bar, like I said, it's dark, it's raining, he's very upset. He hit something. He doesn't see what it was. He just knows that he hit something on the bridge. And the bridge beneath it is that riverbank where the woman was found. So he's putting things together in his head, having not seen what he hit, and how the man who is being persecuted as the murderer in this case is so adamant that he drove off in the opposite direction. Nicholas Hoult thinks he's probably the one that hit the woman, but obviously he doesn't want to speak up about it because of the life that he has built, and things are all coming together in his life. He's about to have a baby. He really does not want to go to jail. All that is, of course, a lot. And I was so drawn into this story because what would you do? I have no idea what I would do. I would probably honestly keep quiet because I would try to justify it. Humans are so good at justifying themselves. I would justify it as like, first of all, it was an accident. Second of all, at this point, it's been a year. At the time that something was hit, he could have called the cops and said, hey, I think I hit something. But if you really thought that you hit a deer or you didn't see what you hit, I don't think that thought would cross your mind. So at this point, it's kind of too late to do anything about it. And if he came forward, there's also that piece of like, but you don't know if you're the one that hit her, right? You don't know. And she was seen having a really bad fight at a bar with her boyfriend just minutes earlier. So it seems pretty clear cut, and inserting yourself into the story would really only cause problems for you. But again, on the other side of it, if you did hit the woman, an innocent man is going to go to prison if you don't speak up. And that moral quandary there, that question of morality, the what would you do kind of situation, it's, you know, like the trolley question, right? There's really no winners either way. That really had me on edge. I really felt panic for the characters, for Nicholas Hoult. I mean, his acting was amazing. He always is. I'm a really big fan of Nicholas Hoult. Everyone in the movie was. Toni Collette is always amazing. And seeing her stress and struggle over this, trying to win district attorney, trying to win this case, going against this public defender. But somewhere along the way, she kind of starts to do a little bit of investigating and finds out that maybe it isn't as cut and clear as everyone else seems to think it is. As Nicholas Hoult struggles with this, seeing the trial, that was also pretty wild and kept me on edge, just seeing the testimony of the man accused and how upset he was and how it was clear that he really loved this woman, and they definitely had their problems and they fought all the time, but he claimed so hard that he would never ever hurt her. And knowing what we know about Nicholas Hoult, it just becomes clearer and clearer that Nicholas probably did kill her on accident. But how his character is set up, we like him and we don't want anything bad to happen to him, but I don't think anyone wants anything bad to happen to this innocent man either. So the audience is feeling exactly what our main character is feeling. And that is a really good example of making your character relatable without having to give too much away about him. We know just enough about Nicholas Hoult and the situation to understand everything exactly and feel what he's feeling. It's one thing to understand, it's another thing to feel. And I definitely felt for him in this, and I was stressed out. When I got out of this movie, I was anxious. I thought I was going to be arrested. Definitely signs of a well set up movie, well executed film in terms of dialogue, acting, the setting, the flashbacks. Those were kind of sprinkled throughout the film. As more and more evidence came up throughout the case, as more witnesses came up, we saw it from Nicholas's perspective, we saw it from the man on trial's perspective, we saw it from the outsider witness perspectives. Just the way the story came together was really great and really interesting to watch, and I was 100% into it the entire time, which is saying a lot for me. I get bored pretty easily with movies sometimes, and this one wasn't that. It wasn't that it was like fast and exciting or anything like that. It was just like, I need to put together the pieces of the puzzle. I don't know what I would do. I need to know what the characters are going to do. As soon as the jurors go into the jury room together, I don't know. I've been called to jury duty. I've never done jury duty, so I don't know all the words for it, but the place where all the jurors go to like decide the verdict, everyone says guilty, 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 but Nicholas Hoult is battling himself and he thinks, well, I don't know, maybe she slipped off that bridge, which maybe she did, right? Maybe Nicholas didn't hit her. Maybe she did slip off the bridge. There's a possibility there. It was really, really dark. It was raining. Maybe she did get hit by a car, and maybe it wasn't Nicholas's car. Anyone could have hit her on that bridge, right? So he's making the argument that he really doesn't think the man did it. He thinks that something happened to her, obviously, but given the evidence, which did say, there was a piece in the evidence where like a coroner said that her injuries didn't match up with like being beaten. It more matched up that she was hit by something. So that's even more evidence to the fact that Nicholas probably did it. And as he's questioning this, he's getting other jurors on his side. So over the course of several days, they are fighting this out in the jury room. And slowly, more and more of the jurors are on Nicholas's side in thinking that this man is not guilty, but there's still the problem of who is guilty? What is the problem here? She could have slipped, but also someone could be at fault, and that person is just out there. I'm not going to give away how the movie ends or where it goes from there. That's most of it already. That's enough spoilers here, but it was a lot, and it was a very unique film. It's not like something I've ever seen before story-wise. I've seen a lot of like legal films. There was definitely like inspiration from other legal movies in the past, 12 Angry Men, things like that. But this was special, and this was something that really got me thinking. And if you've seen any of my reviews before, I love movies that force me to think about them days after I've seen them, right? I don't want to leave the theater and then the movie leaves my mind. That's just a popcorn bucket movie. Those are fun and good for what they are, but I like a movie with a question that I need to think about. I need to watch the whole movie in order to get the evidence to answer the question, and then I need to reflect for a long time to even think about how I would answer it, right? I still am not quite sure what I'd do. All in all, Juror number 2, really great film, really good watch. One of the better ones to come out this year. There was definitely a few month period there where I was losing hope for 2024 movies, but this one was a really good one, and the next one I'm going to talk about. So Juror number 2, I give 4 out of 5 stars. In reflection, it might even go up for me, but for now, I give it 4 out of 5. Highly recommend it. It's coming to streaming soon by the end of this month, so definitely check it out. So the next movie I want to talk about is Heretic.
Hi, good afternoon, ma'am. Are you interested in learning about our Savior, Jesus Christ? Are you interested in learning more about the Church of Jesus Christ?
Come on in.
We can't come inside unless another woman is present.
My wife is home. Does that count?
Great.
You like pie?
Yeah.
My wife has pie in the oven.
I could tell that you are a very spiritually curious person.
I think it is good to be religious, to find your faith in a doctrine you actually believe.
Well, our work here is done.
Now, I will go and check on the pie.
So sleep, silent angel.
Heretic is a psychological horror starring Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, and Chloe East. It is about two Mormon missionaries, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxson, who on their mission encounter a man named Mr. Reed, played by Hugh Grant, who ends up trapping them inside of his home and playing a devious case of religion-based cat or mouse, where they are forced to defend their faith in order to survive and make it out. So, Heretic, I really wanted to see for a few reasons. One, Hugh Grant, love him. Hugh Grant in a horror role, haven't seen that before, want to see it. And his performance just right away, great. Wonderful performance, appropriately creepy and devious. He wasn't like a scary, creepy old man. He was a very clever man. He was a very, very clever man who did not seem intimidating at all at first. And then the longer that you're there, the more you start to put little things together and realize that this is a very, very dangerous person. And that slow build of the character and that intensity from him, while also the way he was acting was very kind of like light and fun and lighthearted while doing some very serious, violent things. It was really interesting, and I don't know if anyone could have pulled it off better than Hugh Grant. I thought he was perfect for the role. But I wanted to watch this movie also because I have a lot of experience with Mormon missionaries. I won't get too much into it because it was a pretty big piece of my life for a while, but during it was like pre-COVID, it was like 2019/early 2020. I used to have a lot of Mormon missionaries show up to my house back before I lived in LA, and I'm too nice to ever say no or slam the door in someone's face. We had religious people come into our house all the time. There was also like Jehovah's Witnesses that would come every once in a while, and eventually I didn't want to talk to them anymore, and I didn't answer the door, and I made my mom answer the door and tell them never to come again. But the Mormon missionaries, they were always like young. It was either, two boys or two girls. Sometimes they would switch off because you're not always in the same place for the whole time, or, the mission ends and then someone else's mission starts in that area. And so I would get different ones. And they were always super nice. I mean, obviously, right? And it got to the point where they would visit me weekly, the missionaries, and then they would usually bring someone else from the church who was like an older adult, like a bishop or something. And they would always be super nice too, and we would sit and I would bake cookies and we would talk about the Book of Mormon and they would make me read the Book of Mormon. And I never really had an intention to become Mormon. It was just fun having these like nice people like around my age come and visit me every week, and we would talk about other stuff too. Eventually I became friends with some of them, and I'm still friends with some of them. Shout out to you if you're watching this. Yeah, so all that to say, I have experience having Mormon missionaries in my home, and I haven't really been around any Mormons since I moved, which was a couple years ago now, but that was a pretty big era in my life. So I was interested to see if I had my own unique perspective on this film, having experience with Mormon missionaries. And I don't know if I had a unique perspective. I didn't. I'm sure most people at some point have had Mormon missionaries approach them at their house. I'm sure not everybody invites them in every week and bakes them cookies and stuff, but some people do. And that's exactly what's happening here. That's what Hugh Grant did. And so seeing these two girls who, one of them grew up in the church is all she knows. One of them was a convert who became a Mormon a little bit later in her childhood. So those are two very unique perspectives on Mormonism right away, which I really appreciated because it is different being born into it and that's all you know and choosing to do it. I liked that dynamic there. They played being Mormon missionaries very, very well. The sisters, they were exactly like every sister I have ever encountered. I even also knew sisters named Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton. They acted exactly like Mormon missionaries do, where, yeah, there's definitely a lot of problems with Mormonism. I don't want to get all into that. The movie gets into that plenty. So if you're interested in that, watch it. Highly recommend Heretic. I think that's also coming to streaming pretty soon too. It is still in theaters, but I'm sure it will stream. But anyway, I'm not going to get too much into like the problems of Mormonism, but being a Mormon, I feel like sometimes you don't realize all those problems. And so seeing that, at least from the sister who grew up in the church, was very interesting, and having her like defend her faith like that versus the girl who converted to being a Mormon, defending her faith in a different way and her unique perspective on the beliefs of Mormons was also very thought-provoking. As someone like me who's read quite a bit of the Book of Mormon actually and knows a lot about Mormonism, I really understood them. And then Hugh Grant's side, like I said, he traps them in his house, and his whole goal is to kind of teach them what religion really is and what the right religion is. Tests them to see if they can hang on to their faith while trying to break down their faith as much as possible. So he comes in and talks about how every religion is basically a copycat of each other with a few differences here and there. He gives this really fun example of the game Monopoly. It was originally a game called like the Landlord game or something like that. And then the person who made the Landlord game got no credit for the idea when Monopoly came out. And then Monopoly has been modernized since then and changed. And his whole lecture about religion is that has happened across like Christianity, across Judaism, Islam, Mormonism. All religions are adaptations of one another.
There are three major monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. I call them the big three. Judaism, i.e., the original edition; Christianity, i.e., the most popular edition; and Islam, the newer, second most popular edition. May I see your Book of Mormon, please? I'll give it back. Thank you. And finally, after 800 years, this Mormonism, i.e., the zany regional spin-off edition. These are all iterations of the same source material. These texts share many of the same characters and histories, albeit presented with different meanings and perspectives. Iterations, over time, diluting the message, obscuring the original.
And Hugh Grant claims that he has found the one true religion. It gets to the point where they can't really be polite anymore. They're trying to play his game of wits. They're trying to argue back with him, and it just ramps up so beautifully and in a way that's very, very believable, because if you're a young girl with another young girl in this random man's home and you cannot get out, you can't just start screaming, right? You have to try to see if you can play their game, see if there is a way out. Like, you have to work together and you have to stay calm. And I thought the portrayal of that situation was pretty realistic for what it was. I don't think anyone's ever going to be in that certain situation, but if they were, I think that's how it would go down. Then we get to the big question of belief versus disbelief. One of the girls tries to choose the disbelief because she thinks that's what he wants. And the other girl argues, no, like, we have to choose what we would actually choose. Like, if we want to go with God, we need to go with God. But it doesn't really matter because it goes to the same place anyway. Which you could say is a metaphor, allegory, whatever, for it doesn't really matter what religion you pick or if you believe or if you don't. We're all going to the same place when we die anyway. If you believe that, if that's what Hugh Grant believes, that's kind of what that is saying there. But when they get down there, it gets even crazier. This part I was not expecting at all. There were definitely some twists and turns in this movie. So if you feel like it's obvious what happens from the trailer, like, it's not. There's more.
I really don't want to give away everything that happens in the basement with Hugh Grant's game of wit. It does take a rather strange, horrific turn that I really enjoyed, but if you haven't seen it, I don't want to give any spoilers for this because, like I said, it's not really something that I saw coming, and that's something that I think should be experienced. But the climax happens down here, and I will give spoilers that we do end up with just one of the sisters.
So then it's her wit against Hugh Grant's. And the way that this kind of like final battle sets itself up, she's the one that kind of solves his puzzle or answers his question as to what is the true religion. The main true religion is control. Whoever has control, that's the one that people are going to look up to in that way, right? That's the person that people are going to follow. If you have control, if you can claim to be a prophet, if you can show miracles, whatever, like that's it. You've done it. And that's what Hugh Grant was trying to do. And he's the one who's had all of control the whole time. And that climax was really well set up. There's a lot of setup and payoff in this film. There's a lot of, like I said, it's very clever. Hugh Grant's character is clever, but also the story is very clever, and the other characters are as well, in different ways that match their personality, ways that match their upbringings, right? They all have these different perspectives and these different ways of battling each other intellectually. So yes, it's a thriller, and there's like death, and there's like fun, interesting, scary imagery, but mainly it's the dialogue and it's the battle of wits that goes on throughout the entire film. And this is another one that was a big thinker, right? As I was watching it, I felt like I knew what was going to happen, and then it just kind of like did a 180 on me multiple times, and I thought, I have no idea what's going on, and I need to know. Just like with Juror number 2, I need to know how these characters are going to get out of this, how these characters are going to handle this, because I have no idea. It could go either way, really. All in all, Heretic was a really fun, interesting film. It's definitely something that I'll watch again, because I feel like it's the kind of movie that like you watch a couple times to really pick things up. And the slow build was really, really enjoyable. I love a movie that kind of like sprinkles, right? It kind of holds out all the big stuff until the end and it racks up. That's what a climax is. Both of these movies did that well, Juror number 2 and Heretic. Juror number 2 didn't really have like a main point of climax for me. It kind of like ramped up pretty quickly and then stayed climactic for a long time. And then Heretic, the ascension, was really satisfying and really well paced until we got to like the main boom. Very entertaining, very thought provoking. I will say about Heretic, really bad theater experience because there was like 10 guys behind me and I went there with my boyfriend and there was like 10 guys right behind us. All of them had their feet on the seat in front of them. Luckily, there was no people in those seats, but one of them was right next to my boyfriend's head, which if that was me, it would bother me. And they were talking the entire time, and they weren't teenagers or anything like that. They were like 20s, maybe 30s, right? Like 10 guys, not even kidding, talking the whole time. And there's a lot to listen to in the movie, right? There's a lot of dialogue that you want to catch, right? And a lot of imagery that I want to see uninterrupted. And there's a lot of quiet parts too during like leading to different scares and climactic moments, right? And every single quiet moment, at least 3 of them were talking. At least 3 of them. There was never just one guy. It was at least 3 to 5 to all 10 of them were talking every quiet moment. Oh, it's the guy that did it. It's the girl who's behind the door. I bet you the girl's behind the door, during a completely silent moment in the movie. Like, it was so frustrating. The entire time I was just imagining each of their little heads blowing up, and so that they would shut the fuck up. And then at the end of the movie, this is just kind of funny. This has nothing to do with my review. At the end of the movie, and we were all too pussy to say anything about it. Like, at the end of the movie, they left first, luckily. And all the people who were like near me on this side were like, oh yeah, those guys were assholes. Like, that was so dumb, blah, blah, blah. And I was so frustrated. I said something like, I hope they all die on the way home. Like, and one of the other guys behind me went, Jesus Christ. And I was like, oh, were we not all on the same page with that? Like, you guys don't think that people who talk throughout the entirety of a movie deserve to die? That's just me. Okay, whatever. So, jokes, but like, it was bad. It was frustrating. All that to say, I still really, really enjoyed the movie despite the terrible theater experience. So, yeah, listen, don't talk in movies. Don't bring out your phone in movies. Have we all forgotten theater etiquette? I could go on a whole long rant about that, but the fact that I could still really, really enjoy Heretic with all that happening, I think speaks volumes to how good the movie is. So Heretic, I also give 4 out of 5 stars. This is another one where I feel like upon a second watch, it would go higher, but starting at 4 out of 5 is pretty good. Both of them, Juror number 2 and Heretic, 4 out of 5, with potential to go up upon another viewing, which is also a big point to both of them, is that I want to watch them both again, specifically Heretic, but I would watch both of them again. And a big point for me that makes a movie good is the rewatchability. And I think both of these movies have rewatchability, even though there are twists and turns. It's the kind of buildup I want to see again. It's the kind of acting I want to see again, the kind of dialogue I want to hear again, an experience I want to have again. And that's a really big point for both of them. So highly recommend both. And that is where I want to leave it there for today. That is all I want to talk about. If you've seen either of these movies and you have opinions, agree or disagree, what have you, feel free to comment that below. I would love to hear it. I am excited for some holiday content I have planned. Hopefully, I'll actually be able to get that out this year. Till next time, guys, have a good one. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for watching, honeybees. Make sure to like and subscribe. Bye. Meow.